Okay, this is one of a series of case studies that we're going to show you at Sawtooth Software. These case studies are examples of the kinds of research you can do using our software or our analytical consulting services. So this case study is, we'll call it the biomarker pricing case study. I'm not at liberty to reveal the exact product category or the client, but disguised the data a little bit, so multiplied some of the numbers by constants and things like that. In any case, let's go ahead and proceed here. So here's a bit of background. Client is a biotech firm, and they've identified a new biomarker for detecting an emergency health condition. In case you're not in the biomarker business, a biomarker is a bit of body chemistry, a chemical or something that's flowing through the bloodstream. And it turns out that various sorts of health conditions release different kinds of chemicals in your body. And if you can identify these and create a test that that quantifies their presence or absence, sometimes you can detect diseases or adverse health conditions before they become obvious in some other ways. And so in this particular case, it was the kind of thing where someone would have an emergency health condition, they'd rush to the hospital, and it might be difficult to diagnose the condition. But for this, if the physicians had this particular a biomarker available that could diagnose this condition, they could potentially save some lives. Now, it turns out that in this particular market, there were other biomarkers already on the market, but they didn't have quite as much diagnostic value as the new biomarker had. So, of course, the company wants to know how much they can sell their new biomarker for. It turned out there were some venture capital partners and some physician interviews that the company had done, and on the basis of those, the venture capitalists and the physicians were recommending a price of about $15 per test. Management was pretty savvy, however, and realized that if you ask physicians how much they want to pay, they might lowball the estimate. And so they really wondered if they could get a price premium based on the qualitative feel they were getting from some of the people they were interviewing, and the test data that they were seeing in terms of the diagnostic value. They suspected they could get a price premium, so they wanted to do a bit of research. This might look a bit light if you're used to dealing with consumer markets. You're used to seeing many more respondents than this probably, but in the world of medical research, when you're dealing with expensive respondents like physicians or lab managers or hospital managers or whatever, you tend to get by with smaller sample sizes. And in this case, we had 200 respondents. We split it 4 ways. We had 3 physician specialties plus hospital lab managers. And we had these respondents take an online CBC, choice-based conjoint survey. Each respondent received 10 choice tasks, and the profiles in the tasks were just combinations of biomarker and price. So there were the 2 existing biomarkers at their prices, and then some variance around those prices, as well as the new biomarker at several price points. And what this experimental design will do for us is it'll give us a utility for each level of price and each biomarker. And in fact, it was an alternative specific design. So the different biomarkers were allowed to have their own unique price sensitivity curves. Here's what a sample question looked like for the survey. Which of these 3 biomarkers would you want to use to diagnose your patients for this medical condition? And we've got the traditional and alternative and the new biomarker, each at a price. And the respondent simply picks one. Each respondent does 10 of these questions. Pretty easy. We did a CBC HB analysis of the choices so that we could have respondent level utility information. And we built a simulator so that the end users, the marketers at the manufacturing company, could look at the results by physician type, by lab, by hospital size, by area of the country. They could cut those 200 respondents any way they wanted to, any way they felt comfortable up to the limitations of sample size. And here's the result. And this was, I think, a really interesting study because we had an interestingly nonlinear price function. What we see is that from a low price of $10 up to about $35, there's a very little bit of price sensitivity. And then you can see the price curve, the slope dramatically it goes down quite steeply, and there's a lot of price sensitivity beyond the $35 price point. So that told my client that there's really no reason to price it $15 as opposed to more, up to $20 or $25 or $30. They can go ahead and price, and they wouldn't lose a lot of volume when they did that. They would just make more money. So what actually happened in the marketplace? Well, the manufacturer decided to sell the new biomarker for $31 a test. And a few years later, after this study was done, I got to visit with the president of the company, and he told me it had become the most successful launch of a new biomarker in history. The product far exceeded the company's expectations in terms of volume. In fact, for a long time, I know they had a hard time keeping up with the demand for the product. And because they were selling the product for twice as much as they could have, there was a lot more money to be made in this study because of two things: because of the management's suspicions that they were owed a price premium, and because the research validated that. So it's a nice case study.